Hey, welcome back to Ethos. In this entry, we'll be focusing on Ethos' cities. Building off what I said in the previous entry, the cities of Ethos are a bit different when compared to our own. The adverse weather conditions of Ethos demands that infrastructure be built to weather storms that can last weeks at a time, as well as be self-sufficient enough to survive if cut off from the shipments of other settlements. A variety of other measures have to be taken into account, from backup generators, air and water purification systems, heating, and of course, food production, just to list a few. So let's get started. The original concept behind these cities would have depicted them as mass-manufactured cities. Something I could use to hand away overly detailed explanations for the existence of the various ruins across Ethos. Basically, vast urban sprawls and industrial complexes with towering concrete walls plastered with the names of the city. These were called the Great Cities of Ethos. What I'm designing here is smaller, more akin to a colony of one of these great cities. It's not depicting any specific place on Ethos. It's a general concept, something I can use to help cement the setting in place as I work towards constructing those special locations. Nestled between high mountains and surrounded by rich volcanic soil, its residents would erect farmlands around it, in the plains, or even taken to terracing the slopes on the mountains. As it develops over the years, it starts to serve as a gateway into the highlands beyond the mountains. Each day another airship hovering over the city, waiting for the chance to refuel and restock their supplies. The initial idea for this concept was to have the city spreading out. Vast construction and mining efforts scarring the sides of the mountains, with rows of industrial pipes protruding from the ground, snaking up the slopes of the mountain. Small vents pumping steam and smoke into the air, with small structures popping up on the tops of the peaks. All of this being very similar in style to the artwork done by Ian McHugh for the Mortal Engines books, his work being somewhat of a recent obsession of mine. The semi-realistic and stylized nature of his designs gives his art a rather unique vibe, and yet still maintains the idea of it being something that could be possible in real life. Now, I couldn't get that idea to transfer from my head to the pad very well, opted for a more simpler solution. What I ended up going for is a smaller town, most likely only a decade old, devoid of the wear and tear commonly associated with more aged cities. A beaten, unpaved road serving as the city's sole connection to others via ground transit. The high mountains shielding it from the brunt of any storm's might. Fields sprawling outwards without the need for the protective structures used by cities in less geographically gifted areas of Ethos. This was also an attempt to revisit a style I had done years before. When I had just gotten my hands on Clip Studio Paint, I made a piece called Winter's Dawn. To this day, I consider it the best of my art. That lineless style of art is not something I've gotten the hand of yet, but I'd like to think that this is a step closer to getting that level of proficiency. Speaking of styles, it's necessary that I mention another point of reference. See, I take the majority of my inspiration for the city's designs from the Homeworld series. More specifically, the capital city of Karak, Tyr. What little is shown of Tyr within the games has always left a rather deep impression on me every time I saw cutscenes of it. The massive steel domes looming over the more conventional looking city, bordered by the shield walls protecting them from the desert. That was always an interesting scene for me. Ethos, in a sense, is the opposite of Karak. Where the Kushan battle against the encroaching desert sands, the Etosans contest against storms threatening to flood their cities and fields. Both are harsh environments that shape the very cultures of their respective inhabitants. The Homeworld series, for the most part, has always had incredibly intricate and interesting world building and immersive storytelling. Pivoting back on topic, the great cities are something I intend to rework to be more distinct than just expansive cities. However, I can give a peek. So, here's a little lore to further immerse you in the setting. The Ethos calendar is widely recognized by many and used by the nations of Ethos. It was implemented by a nation recorded in history as the Coalition. This coalition lasted 27 years into said calendar before disbanding itself. Before this, however, it oversaw the construction of various settlements across Ethos. See, building on Ethos isn't the problem. It's maintaining what little infrastructure exists. Before the advent of the coalition, the majority of the inhabitants of Ethos were huddled in small villages and homesteads in isolated regions across Ethos. There were hundreds of attempts to expand these initial villages into larger towns, with few ever succeeding and even fewer recovering after a failed attempt. After a storm, the majority of a settlement's time and resources are spent on repairing damages endured during the brunt of the storm to prepare for the next one. There were no factories to call on for spare parts if something broke. They either had to make do with what they had, or scavenge parts from cities that didn't survive the previous storms. Some made their homes easy to dismantle so that they could move and avoid the worst of the storms. Periodically or seasonally moving their homes every now and then, back and forth between temporary safe zones as the storms wane and go over the years. One could see these wandering settlements quite frequently, rolling across the land in convoys of their massive land cruisers, or leaving lines in the skies as aircraft and airship alike soared overhead. They made for good trading partners, allowing the more static settlements to trade over the vast distances between them. The settlements designed and built by the Coalition, however, didn't need to move around to avoid the storms, and had infrastructure that could survive and function unimpeded after the storms passed. These settlements could expand without worry, and eventually became the great cities, with vast holds of knowledge and industrial capability alongside a wealth of comforts available to their citizens. Everything from agricultural to pharmaceutical and even recreational goods could be made in these cities, greatly improving the lives of not just those in the cities, but anyone within trading distance. All of this efficiently powered by an almost irreplaceable fusion reactor. Almost. The Coalition also had the foresight to ensure the great cities were more than capable of repairing their own power sources, or even fabricating entirely new reactors, depending on their needs. This is provided, of course, if the city in question has the materials, energy, and time required to accomplish such an undertaking. In the desolate, almost never-ending barrage of storms on Ethos, these cities are lifelines for the Ethosians, beacons in the dark, bastions where all else fails, and most importantly, homes. The loss of even a single of these cities could cascade a region into chaos and destitution. The Coalition was well aware of this fact and prepared accordingly. They made sure that the cities could offer assistance to one another if ever needed, a plan built into the very foundations of their structure. While there is only one instance of it occurring effectively, the cities were also built with the ability to merge with one another, many of the cities having these exposed connection points that have gone unused for centuries. Several cities have attempted to make use of these connection points, but the majority have failed or outright collapsed from improperly maintaining the expanded network of infrastructure that comes with the merging of cities. Now, aside from their influence in the construction of the great cities, very little is known concerning the coalition. Its history and actions overshadowed by the many immediate successor nations that were formed within the wake of its dissolution. Despite this, however, it still remains present in the minds of the Ethosians, with many of them striving to honor it by improving upon its designs and concepts. I do intend to handle the lore behind these nations, especially that of the coalition, in its own video sometime in the future, so there is something to look forward to. If I've piqued your interest, keep on the lookout. I post my artwork online alongside any other lore pieces I might do, and there's always a couple pieces that I never make any videos for. Links will be down in the description if you want to find them. Anyhow, thanks for sticking around till the end. And until next time, goodbye.